Welcome to MTM Travel. We're going to talk about Hyatt in Chicago, the sad state of their category fours. But we also have to talk about Southwest again, Mark. Oh my God, the news.
So
Everybody's
much
mad.
Southwest. So much. I hate them.
So before we get into Southwest, you are going to the Bahamas. So next week, Joe will be joining me, and then you'll be back the week after that to talk all about your trip to Nassau and all of the cool things you saw, Baha Mar, everything else. So yeah, are you getting excited?
Yeah, I think, the week before it's always crazy and you're trying to get everything done and it's extra stressful, but I'm excited. We're doing the weird thing, which it ended up working out. I think I talked about this already, where we fly out Friday night, but we stay overnight and then get up early and fly. I think this is like the best setup for that type of thing because we're not spending, 25K a night to get there late. And then I hate when you get in at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night and you just go to bed basically and you spend the same amount of money. So we're staying in Charlotte for Friday night, only 5K for a Hyatt place right by the airport. Get up early. We get to the resort probably like 10 a.m. So you get like the full day experience without paying for it.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, for us, we've done that before going specifically there because from the West Coast, it's almost impossible to get there at any reasonable time. You have to connect. And yeah, we've done that exactly thing before, get there early, especially with how expensive everything is down there. And you're not enjoying it to get there at 9 o'clock at night. You're just going to bed anyway. So yeah, I think that's a good plan. And hey, 5K these days, getting a category 1 Hyatt, it feels so good, even if it is a Hyatt house by the airport or place by the airport.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's what I kind of like about it's weird. Alaska, when you book American, which is what we use, when you book American Airlines on Alaska, they have all these weird routings that you don't like. American doesn't even throw out there, but Alaska's like, all right, let's push these two things together. It sounds good.
I've been noticing that there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the routings, and people should definitely compare American and Alaska. 'Cause oftentimes the prices are about the same. There are sometimes that American has like saver things that are lower than what Alaska is offering for the same flight, but a lot of cases they're very similar. And Alaska miles, I guess, are a little easier to come by these days with the Hawaiian stuff. And we didn't have this to talk about, but I guess the Hawaiian credit cards are going away, right? And a lot of people are making a move in the space to go get the Hawaiian credit cards before they go away. Have you picked up any of those?
No, Barclays hates me. Same with the Barclays American Airlines card, and people are panicking a bit and kind of messing up their application path. Like, let's say they were 324, and they're like, "Oh, I got to get this one more Chase card or two more Chase cards." They move on. They're like, "Oh no, these are going away." So they burn a spot and kind of screw themselves. And then Barclays we talked about on 20-minute travel was double dipping, like sending out two things. So some of those people that were at 324 are now 524 and they got stuck with two of these Barclays cards, which would have been better to get the Chase cards and then wait and sign up for these. I mean, they're not going away anytime. They're going away soon, but not like anytime immediate. I would imagine towards the end of this year, especially the American Airlines stuff, because it doesn't change out until 2026. So they're going to try to get you in there as long as they can. So don't rush to do it. If you're over 524, hey, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, it was interesting to see chatter this week and everybody sort of jumping around that. And like you said, they're not going away this week, this day. And Alaska miles, not as good as they used to be either. So, take that with a grain of salt. It used to be like I would do anything to get some Alaska miles.
Yeah.
Of course, I took advantage of the transfer play, transferring quite a bit of American Express membership rewards to Hawaiian with the bonus, which then transferred to Alaska. So I'm set for a little bit of time, but, now I feel like maybe I should pad it a little bit more because Alaska with One World, just their program I feel is better than Americans. And it's nice, like you say, to have these different routings and to have this second option for a lot of these same airlines or even for American Airlines.
Yeah, but all this will be moot point in 2026 when American joins thank you points, right?
Oh, God. So many changes. Everything's
That's a
a moot
rumor.
point.
That's not a thing. People like we don't know it for sure, but it sounds like that could be possible. But yeah, just imagine how much that will blow up everything. People will be like, "Oh, I mean, Alaska will still be valuable, but it's so much easier to earn thank you points than it will be Alaska once the membership to Hawaii and to Alaska goes away. That this will be like the new hotness, and I'm sure American will devalue even more shortly after.
Yeah, I mean, we've been wanting that or, hoping for it for a long time. So it would be good for them. I mean, they have this longtime partnership with Citi, and obviously they're dumping Barclays. So we know that they're firming that up. So yeah, I mean, that's everybody's pipe dream, right? I mean, everybody in this hobby's pipe dream forever.
Yeah, I mean, you used to always be sitting on millions of thank you points because of what the AT&T card and buying creepy toys and dolls and crap. So
Yeah, let's do it. I'm low on AA miles. I had so many AA miles for years because I did those executive cards back in the day at 100K over and over. You know, I did a lot of applications back in the day. And then for years, I didn't really earn any, but I was just slowly burning them off. And then now my balances are pretty low. My Alaska balance much better. So I probably need to focus more on that. But I guess we should talk about Southwest. We did talk a lot on the last show how they had changed the earnings on some of their flights. But then, I mean, that was just the beginning, because just after we recorded, the hammer dropped and they did all kinds of stuff. But basically, they turned themselves into a legacy carrier without some of the perks like an alliance and partners. First class seats right now. They're going to get there, but they just said, you know what? Yeah, lounges, so much. But they have basic economy now.
yeah. Yeah, they're American Spirit. That's what they are. The worst of both. Southwest is the worst airline now in America. I wanted to say that. People push back on me, so I didn't come out and fully put that on my title. But it is by far, not by far, but it is the worst American airline in my opinion. Worst earning rates. The miles are worth almost the least, down towards Delta level. And that's before they do this variable pricing where if it's a busy time, they're going to ditch the flat, cent per point, where you're normally getting like 1.2 to 1.4 cents per rapid rewards point. You can kind of guarantee that you're going to be in that bucket. And that's including taxes and fees. Some people take those out. I never understood why they did, but whatever. So you're in that thing. But when it's a busy flight, let's say it's like New Year's Eve or something, now are they going to drop them down to like 0.8 of a cent because it's a busy time? So they could end up being the worst points. So you're earning the worst. They might be redemption the worst. You have no perks. You have no international flights to really get maximized value, where like American, maybe domestically it's not the best, but you can still get good partner deals and things like that drive the value up a bit. You don't have any of that. Can't even fly to Canada, Shawn.
I know this, but you could just drive across the tunnel. It's okay, Mark. It's just right there for you. I can't.
I gotta get my dill pickle fries, man.
I mean, this is really a tragic event. And I want to say that because just knowing the history of Southwest, how they started in Texas, there's a great podcast called Business Wars that did a whole episode or whole series of episodes about the start of Southwest and how they, did all their competition and how they were able to launch by doing just flights within the cities in Texas and the culture of that and how important all of that was. And then we all know what it grew into in the 21st century, but we're seeing this everywhere. We talk Vegas all the time. We're seeing, the corporate structure really take away a lot of the creativity. And we're really at like version 3 or 4 of this. Capitalism is very mature at this point, much more mature than it was 30 or 40 years ago when it comes to this stuff. And we're seeing heavy influence from the stock market. In this case, it was a big investor with Southwest pushing for these changes. In many cases in the corporate environment, it seems like we need to cut these costs right now, and they don't look at like long-term benefit. But the question is, how do you build a brand like Southwest in the future if you're running a business today like this? Southwest didn't become this beloved brand, and everybody across the internet was upset about this. Every group, it wasn't just travel people talking about this. I listened to like all kinds of different podcasts that are in different genres. I heard people mentioning this. This affects everybody's life. And how does Southwest become that brand that's so iconic? You have to do all those cool things along the way. And today's business environment just doesn't allow for that. So will we ever get a Southwest of the future or other brands that people love? You think about some of the most beloved brands, In-N-Out, here locally, everybody loves In-N-Out, privately owned. A lot of these companies that are still, Joe mentioned last week, Arizona Iced Tea and how they've kept the prices, privately owned. That's all that's left is the privately owned good companies, because as soon as Wall Street gets in there, and I understand make money for shareholders, investors. I invest in the stock market. I get all of that side of it, but there is no balance left.
they know the people. Like they know people are resistant to change. If Southwest is the best flight, like if you're a focus city, if that's the best airline for it, you're still going to fly them, even if you don't like these changes. Or if you have status with them, you're probably going to still chase status because that's the status you have. And oh, I still get my free bags because I have status and stuff. And maybe I'll get some better seats now and things like that. Like, yeah, they'll lose some people, but they're going to gain other people because they're going to be like, oh, the boarding procedure's better and stuff. And as much as we talk a big game, how we hate things, we don't support it. We don't, dig down deep and say, you know what? I'm not going to go there anymore. Look at resort fees, how much people in Vegas hate it. We're going to talk about it on the MTM Vegas show this week about how in a poll, resort fees won in a landslide. What people hate. Virgin came out, opened a hotel with no resort fees. Nobody stayed there. If you cared that much, you would have left your beloved MGM or Caesars property and you would have stayed at Virgin to make a point. But we don't, because we don't care. So we're going to pay these fees. They're going to make their money and they're going to keep doing this because we have no backbone.
No, I mean, it's true. And on the Vegas example, this is what happens. Like somebody gets a bright idea to create a new fee or to change something. And then slowly the whole industry adopts that. With the resort fee in Vegas following the Great Recession, MGM institutes the resort fee. Caesars, the other huge player in town, they advertise. They go all in on advertisement for no resort fees. They say we do not have resort fees, and they do a national advertisement. All this stuff that doesn't last because they can't rent their rooms out at the same profit as MGM does. So then they do it. And then one by one, you see the slower players do it. And then now in the mature version of that, which we'll talk about this week, now, a month or two ago, MGM raised their top tier resort fees to $55. Then other casinos doing it. Now more this week are doing it. And so even the good players eventually follow the leader because they can't compete with the profit motive. I guess the point is, if your whole thing is making profit, they're actually doing a good job. I mean, maybe the customer experience, the loyal brands, but from their perspective, I will give them credit. These things do work and it does create more profit. It's just, there is a loss of some of the culture, I guess, that we've had. And again, how do we create businesses today that become the special businesses of tomorrow under these current economic conditions? I don't know.
Yeah, that's why the playbooks look the same. I mean, it's all, institutional investors and they know the playbook worked here, so they're going to use the playbook here. Southwest, they're just looking at Delta, American, United, and then also the low-cost carriers. What works for both of those to make money? Let's do it here. We're not going to rewrite the book. We're not going to come up with new ideas. We're going to go for the sure thing. And we, as the people, make them sure things because we keep bowing down to it. And I don't know, it's not like we have a lot of options now to fly other airlines, but back in the day when Southwest offered all these things that you loved, were you willing to pay $50 more to fly that airline versus Delta or somebody else when it was cheaper? Sometimes people did, the super loyal ones, but most of the times, no. So you can't complain about this because you made this bed by not supporting them and paying a little bit extra for these things that you thought, were important. And maybe you're going to come to find out they weren't that important. Who knows? But I never flew Southwest because they just weren't convenient for me and the price wasn't good. And I didn't care about all this stuff. So I'm okay with with these changes. But if you did, you can't look at it and be like, well, Southwest is $25 more, so I'm going to fly this airline instead and then be mad about this.
Yeah, it's funny because I worked into the last show that it was the death of Southwest when we were talking with Joe, but we did not yet know about a lot of these changes that were coming. We knew, about them changing certain parts of the program. And I got the look from you guys when I said the death of Southwest. You and Joe seemed a little skeptical when I said that. And I don't mean the death of business is going away. I mean the death of what Southwest was as a brand. And then, they kind of confirmed it for me the next day when they released all of that crazy stuff. This is the death of Southwest. That airline as it was doesn't exist anymore. And it's just another homogenized airline. I guess both of you and I are hypocrites. Neither one of us love Southwest. I flew them a lot more than you did. I loved flying them when our daughter was little. They were really great with families and babies, and we did that all of the time. I've had the companion pass over the years. I do live in a city where it's a focus city. They have a lot of flights. But even then, I've moved away because their prices are insane, and it still doesn't make sense for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm just sad about the current state of what's happening because I am a nerdy person, right? I like to enjoy quirkiness and special things. And, that sort of stuff does talk to me. And it feels like less and less of that these days. But again, I'm sure that investors will love this. But should they change their stock symbol, the love stock symbol, their whole brand with the heart? We love our customers. We love all of this stuff. Maybe change it to hate. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think they probably should, but I think the real death of Southwest will be it has nothing unique now, and that's the case for any business. If you don't have something to drive people to you, like Delta has great service, and American has great partners and stuff. I don't know what United has, but I'm sure there's something. But and then Frontier and Spirit have really cheap fares. So what does Southwest have now? The companion pass? That's not going to drive your business. So giving BOGO flights isn't like a great thing for you personally as the business. So they have to come up with that. Are they going to be the most on time airline? Can they do that? I don't know. I mean, last month they were I think number 2. But if that could be their thing, then they can make it. But you have to have something.
And this all brings me back to an article I wrote 10 years ago, maybe now, that these companies are not loyal to you. Don't be loyal to them. Loyalty programs are not designed for you to get a lot of great perks and things that you like. They're designed to build loyalty and for you to become a stronger customer and ultimately to make them more money. So be loyal in the way. And, Caesars, when the no resort fees, they did these big commercials. They had a parade down the strip, no resort fees. They backtrack. Southwest, their whole brand about the 2 free bags. What are their high up executives last year saying? This is so essential to the brand. We will lose money if we get rid of this, and then changing it. So don't buy into these brands as anything more than companies, and these loyalty programs as anything more than a means to an end. Take out what you can get from it. How is it benefiting you? Even with Hyatt, which would be my most loyal brand, I'm starting to feel a lot of softness towards that brand because of some of the moves they made lately and jacking up the prices. And it just isn't the value it was. It's important to evaluate that stuff over time. And, if you're a Southwest customer, they just slapped you across the face. It'd be kind of hard to ignore it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's based off of casino type of things. Like they want you to chase the same thing with the casinos. They want you to gamble more to try to keep status, to get free things in quotation marks. So you keep on this hamster wheel. That's all this is. The loyalty program they're trying to get to the point where they do just enough to keep you on the hamster wheel, but not overgive to you so that you're getting too much value. So that's where Hyatt, I think, is trying to find their way back to where they were too far forward. Now they're trying to find back to that point, the breakage point, where if we take anything more away, we're going to lose a lot of people. But if we keep it right here, it's just enough to keep people on it. So they're hoping you don't make these decisions. You're like, well, last year I did it, so I'm going to do it this year. Instead of stepping back and saying, is this worth it to me? Like, what did I actually get out of it last year? If you sit down, if most people that have status with an airline or a hotel sit down and figure out how much it costs them to get it, and then and are honest with how much value they got from it, they're going to come out in the negative, and it's going to, not worth their time, not worth their money. But a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's funny on our MTM Vegas after show, there's so much casino here, but there's a lot of parallels here between, I feel like the casino industry was far out ahead of making a lot of these corporate changes compared to other industries that we're starting to see it. So on our MTM Vegas after show, I talk about, some of the playing that we've been doing and kind of looking at comps and all of that. And I just always running through my mind as I'm talking about this is that none of this is worth it just purely for what we're getting in comps or that I'm enjoying the pursuit of some of this stuff that we're doing. And I'm completely viewing it as entertainment value and not a net positive. I'm not making money off of this stuff. So it's all in the way that you look at it. But yeah, it is a hamster wheel. And as soon as you jump off, Hyatt is the worst too, because, like Marriott with the credit card, depending on the card you get 15, 25 nights a year. Can you still double stack them with the business and the personal?
I think up to 40. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so you can get up to 25 with the premium personal and 15 with the business. So that's a lot of nights. And then they have lifetime status and those count towards that. So you're actually, even just by having the credit card, building towards that. But Hyatt, it's all based on spend. So I've been a top tier elite with Hyatt for 10 years now. And I'm not even close to a lifetime diamond or globalist or whatever it was. So there you go. I'll never probably be lifetime with a company that I spent 10 years loyal to. And that's just sort of the way it is today.
Coming over to the dark side of Hilton with me, right? Come on, come on. Where the good free
I,
night certs are.
I almost have my lifetime up. You know, what sucks is I was in some groups of people back in the day when SPG was going away, and there's a lot of plays to kind of like pad your lifetime status numbers with Marriott and some of the things you could have done. And I didn't do any of that. So I could probably have lifetime platinum here, or at least, you know, lifetime gold close to lifetime platinum right now. And I'm sitting at silver. I am lifetime silver. So there you go. What does that get me?
You know what lifetime platinum gets you? If you have a hot pocket and lifetime platinum, you have a hot pocket.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. My biggest jealousy still to this day was 10 years ago or so. Hyatt released a credit card offer that if you had signed up, and they took it right back off, but there was a mistake in the print, and it said that if you applied for the card, you would get lifetime diamond. I think it was diamond at the time status. And a few people that I know got the card during that very specific window before they pulled it, and they got lifetime globalist status, which is just insane, just from signing up for a credit card. And man, that's the deal that got away from me. That's the one that hurts me the most.
I don't even remember that, so I must have missed the whole discussion of it. But I would just love them to bring back a Category 7 free night, 2 free night cert sign up bonus. Like, let's get back to that.
Yeah, listen, listen, everybody, stop making this thing worse. No, it is getting worse. I would love to hear what people have to say about Southwest. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter, not just from us last week, because of the way that they did this. Very curious too, to kind of like, do you think that they got caught with the redemption value changes before announcing everything else? It's very weird. You would think that they would want to announce all of this at once instead of sort of spreading it out, given the big hit that they took.
I don't know. Their social media team seems out of touch too, where they're like, it's not like we didn't trade Luca. It's like, oh, okay. Like, do you not realize that this was big? This wasn't like a small flub and you're just making fun of yourself. Like, you guys basically gave double birds to your entire fan base. And now you're like, it wasn't that bad. Could have been worse.
Yeah, we could have traded. Well, they are Texas focused, so
you could have only canceled the companion pass. That's the only thing that would have been worse. That's all you have left. You took everything else away.
Yeah, that's so curious. Remember, like, everybody always said the companion pass is going away. It's too good to be true. Obviously, it's stood the test of time. It's been around. I don't know when it was introduced, but I know it's been around ever since I've been following this closely, which is now 13 years. Just such a cool perk and really unique. And I think this shows you, like, Wall Street crunched the numbers, right? They have the data that this really is driving value for that airline in some way or the other, because they have kept it around. Sure, they changed the requirements a little bit, made it a little bit harder, but it's still fairly easy to get if you really want to get it. And this must just drive a ton of business for them.
Yeah, the weird thing, like, I don't mind them. I'm not surprised they would keep it. I'm surprised that sign-up bonus points count towards it, and it has for this long, because that's the easy way to get it. And yes, they're selling those points to Chase, so they're making money there. But you think you'd want people to be doing, I guess it doesn't really matter to them, because if you're spending the points, you're spending on your credit card to get the points, Chase gets the swipe fees. But, Southwest is selling the same amount of points. So probably doesn't matter to Southwest. I'm more surprised Chase hasn't pushed back and been like, you know what? These things shouldn't count towards it.
I'm of the belief that Southwest wants a lot of people to have companion passes, that if you get to that point, they've put the threshold at a point where you're now enveloped in their ecosystem enough. They have so much data from, well, maybe they don't, Mark. They can't even charge in Canadian dollars. So maybe they can't compile this data, and they just haven't figured it out that they're losing.
They have a piece of paper and pencil. That's how they track all this stuff.
Yeah, like the meme from It's Always Sunny with Charlie in front of the billboards. I don't know. It's sad. It's been interesting to see. I'd love to see comments and talk more about it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, are people going to fly Southwest? Like you said, they will. That's your option. Go with the cheapest option. Go with the option that works best. We've talked about avoiding connections. A lot of times, that's where I will go, and that's where I will choose. There's really not an airline I won't fly. I don't understand these people. I'll never fly this airline again. The only thing I wouldn't do, Mark, is take Spirit internationally and have 3 connections.
Yeah, not the best. I mean, I don't have. If you're just going to like the Caribbean or Central America, to 3 connections anywhere is just stupid. I don't care what airline you're on. You're asking for trouble.
And as if we haven't introduced Hyatt enough into the show, I know you wanted to talk about Hyatt in Chicago, their hometown, where they have so many properties. And it used to
Yeah.
be a lot of great value properties, some really interesting ones like Chicago Athletic Association that were like, I think it was a category 3 when it launched. A lot of great options, but you really notice that there's a death. There's really not that many category 4s in Chicago anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's like 4 or 5 hour drive for us, so it's a great place to burn category 1 to 4 certificates. And we've talked about this for years now of how they've slowly taken away like every little bit of value. So my new favorite, or my favorite over the last couple of years, was the Thompson in Chicago, and I think even wasn't the Park Hyatt category 4 not too long, like a couple of years ago in Chicago, or am I misremembering that?
I think it was, but they did they gutted it and
Yeah.
renovated it. So it was a very, very, because that's the first Park Hyatt. And so that's kind of their flagship there. I stayed there last year during the Hyatt event and really loved that hotel. But yeah, I do think it was a category 4 before they renovated it.
Yeah, so you had that, and then when they bought Thompson and all that, and those companies, you had Thompson, which was a category 4. You still have the Hyatt Regency, which I think is the biggest, or one of the biggest Hyatts. It's just too big on the river. And then you had the Hyatt Centric, and you had the Ambassador. And so they took away the Athletic Club, took away Park Hyatt, then they took away Thompson, which I was super sad about. But a couple blocks away is the Ambassador, and I was like, okay, that's my new one. I'm going to try that this year. We'll go down there, burn a cert, and see. It's kind of in the same neighborhood that I love, which my buddy Ryan calls the Viagra Triangle. It's where all the old people go. I think we've said this on the show before, but if you look outside of where the Thompson is, there's like a triangle, and it's all bars and restaurants. So it's old men and not young, not old women. At a bar, sugar daddies, and how that all plays out. So he calls it Viagra Triangle. That's like the joke of Chicago. So I'm like, okay, Ambassador's a little bit further north of that. Still can walk to all these the great restaurants and everything around there, like Gibson's, things like that. And come to find out, last week we broke the news that the Ambassador was leaving Hyatt. As you're listening to this, today is the last day, and people were getting that had points bookings were getting emails saying, "Hey, we're leaving Hyatt. So if it's after the 17th, you're out of luck. Like, good luck." And which is crazy to me. Like, you just leave 2 weeks before, and you knew about this for a while, or something happened. And just imagine, like, you're 3 weeks away from going to Chicago, and all of a sudden now you don't have a hotel.
Yeah, that always sucks when that happens. Like, I always feel like they could honor the bookings or figure out a way to do it if it already pre-exists that. Why not just stay at the Hyatt Regency Schaumburg, Mark, and then just drive into the city? Or you can stay at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare. The trade is right. Yeah, exactly. A category 1 value all around.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. Like, one by one, now all we have left is a category 4 in Chicago, which used to have like 6, is the Hyatt Regency, which is just an oversized conference hotel, nothing special about it. And then the Centric, which we talked about on 20-minute travel later this week, how Centrics aren't the greatest. I haven't been at the one in Chicago. It's on the Mag Mile or just off of it. So, I mean, the location's decent. And then you have stuff that's like down in the Loop and, places you don't really want to go. So it's crazy that they're allowing their backyard, their like homegrown area, to completely fall apart as far as value goes. And Chicago used to be like the best value to stay at cash wise too. Like, you could get hotels 5-6 years ago, and maybe this is what's playing into it. You could get them 5-6 years ago for like $150 cash. I remember one time we stayed at the Hyatt Regency. This was before miles and points, and we paid more in parking than we did for the hotel. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think in general we've seen hotel prices get insane, and that's certainly happened in Chicago. And you're right. I mean, if you like compared Chicago to New York, and I think those are probably the comparisons that most people would make. Chicago was just much more of a value destination, and you got a lot of that same city feel and a lot of the cool stuff. The one that got away from me that I really wish I had stayed at was the Chicago Athletic Association before it went up. I mean, I could still stay there now. I did a tour of the hotel last year, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly for me. And it just the fact that it launched there. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see this across the board. We saw this with their devaluation, right? This isn't just Chicago, or this is everywhere. Or not their devaluation, but they're just changing their prices. We're seeing far more category hotels go up in price, very few go down in price. We're seeing cash prices change, which probably has something to do with that. It has gotten very expensive to travel. I think that's something that we're a little desensitized to because we are generally looking for free things. We're looking for hotel nights and flights, and we're, other than maybe for budget carriers on cheap little flights that we do, if it's a big flight we're doing, we're probably using miles and points. And so we get desensitized to that. And I guess that's a big question on the wider sort of economy too, that people are questioning, is whether this is all going to come down, right? I mean, where's all this money coming from? There's a lot of soft bookings. I know in Vegas they're talking about that, but just the hotel companies in general, some of the rumblings are that bookings are very soft for this summer, and debt levels are high. So how long can these prices keep up is another big question. And maybe that means that a couple of years from now we'll actually see some prices come down for some of these categories. No,
Hopefully.
yeah.
We'll see cash prices come down. I doubt category prices will come down very much, but yeah, it's crazy domestically. I mean, we've been seeing this for a couple of years now. I can't get flights domestically for a decent price to save my life. Like, everything I look at is $600 to $700 round trip, and it's insane. Unless you're flying the low cost carriers, that's what you're paying. And it's like, to go to Vegas, to go to California, to go to Florida, and I could go to Paris for cheaper than this. It just doesn't make sense to me. Who's paying this? Where's the money coming from? I got it when it was coming out of COVID, because everybody had money from the checks, as well as when you're not going out and spending money. Like, everybody had built up savings, and then they were like, screw this. I've been cooped up. I want to blow it. I got it. But now we're well past that, and we're dipping into where people are running up debt. And at some point they're going to say, you know what, this ain't worth it anymore. And these companies are just like, I don't understand how they can charge these prices.
Yeah, I just think about some of the trips I've taken in the last, few years. I did that Universal trip, which was, $4,000, which was paid for with my Delta credit. But just when you factor in the wider, food and stuff we spent, let's call that a $5,000 trip for just, 5 days at Universal Studios Florida. My Hawaii trip I just did, luckily to have a friend who used his DVC points. But even then, I mean, with the Hyatt Regency down on Waikiki was going for like $900, which is insane for that hotel a night. Just insanity everywhere. And I have made a point to start looking at prices. I'm not somebody who's always out there cents per point. I used to write about some of that stuff, I think more as like an exercise, a thought exercise to show people. But I'm not somebody who says, I got $5,000 trip here and I got a $5,000 trip there. I just traveling and I have points and I take care of it. But I've been really focusing on the price of everything lately to kind of look and remind myself about how good we have it, how good this hobby has given it to us, where we can really essentially say, I want to go there, and not think too much about the price.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we all are. But like we said earlier, you got to rethink things, and you got to, figure if this still makes sense for you. And if this point, which it used to make sense to go to New York and stay at a Marriott, but now they're way more expensive, does it still make sense if that's where you love to go to earn those points? And part of that, oh, here we go. I'm going to segue for us. Part of that is when you're doing status, you have to decide each year if it's worth chasing again. And Hyatt, with all their changes that they made last year, it didn't really hit, because like the main one was guest of honor, where you used to have unlimited ones, and then they're like, all right, you're going to earn them. We're going to give you 5 to start with, but then also if you use all those, you can book some more, because we did this kind of mid-year. But this is the first year that you have to earn the guest of honors before you give them out. And I think this is a really big deal for families that are 5+, because a lot of times you're booking 2 rooms. You don't get status perks for 2 rooms. You don't get lounge access. You don't get a free breakfast and stuff like that. You can kind of finagle it, but if you have that, or if you're traveling with, like, you travel with your sister or brother a lot and their family, your parents, or however it be, is if you have to have 2 rooms where you go, you used to be able to just guest of honor, like you put it in your spouse's name or your parents' name, whatever, guest of honor, everybody gets their breakfast. But now, most people are probably only earning 3 or 4 guest of honors a year. If you travel a lot, that's not enough. So I wrote an article that, like, now you have to prioritize. We used to think the lounge access certs were BS. I get lounge access anyways. I'm a globalist. Who cares? But now you kind of have to value those. If you're staying at a Hyatt Regency or a Grand Hyatt that has an open lounge, which is more rare than it used to be, that's what you should book them into. Book that first. Like, don't just be like, oh, I'm going to guest of honor, we'll figure it out later. No, because at the end of the year, you might be staying at a hotel that doesn't have a lounge, and that guest of honor still would have value, but you need to prioritize the lounge access and book those things first. Maybe even like seek it out. If you're going to an area, find the hotel that has a lounge.
Yeah, it's good advice. And to be mindful of those guests of honors too, and to use them. Make sure your guests of honors get used, because you do get a night credit when they are
Yeah.
used. So don't leave those on the table because you're getting, elite night credit on the table. So there's a lot of strategy that comes in here and making sure that you have enough for the people that you want them for, or for your family, or for your own use. So like, I guess if somebody who's not that close to you wants some help, just give them a lounge access cert. I don't know, but I think this is good, because I'm very excited about maybe having some thought for use of these, because I have never used one single lounge access cert.
Remember they gave us like points the one year for COVID, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you some points for these because you couldn't use them. We're like, well, we could never use them before. I wish they would just make them breakfast certs. Like, just give me breakfast. They would be wildly useful for globalists too, for giving them the friends and stuff. But funny enough, like going to Bahamas, we're going with another family that my kids are really good friends with, and we're good friends with the parents. So we're doing that, and I was like, hey, I'm going to get you. I reached out to a buddy that has like 300 nights a year at Hyatt, so he has like guest of honor certs to give away in bunches. So I'm like, hey, can you send one to him? And he did, and he attached it. And he's one of those people that, like, opposite of me, he's like, oh, did you read about this and this and this and this at this hotel and at these restaurants? I'm like, no, man, like, we're gonna get there, we're gonna figure it out. And I'm like, we've been to Bahamas before, I'm not worried about it. And he's like, holy crap, I just realized you saved us a butt ton of money, because we're getting breakfast, and then the Baha Mar there, they give drink tickets every day too. He's like, this is insane.
It really is there. That's a lot of money you're saving. The prices of food and drink. I mean, I haven't been there since the beginning of 2020, and I can't imagine what the prices are there. I mean, back then it was insane. So it's going to be a good time. That's the hard thing at a place like that, is for normal people. I think we have our way of thinking about things, but I think normal people just go on vacation and spend money. They just order drinks and they go to breakfast and spend $200 for 4 people, for all that crap that we're a little bit more mindful of. And I guess that's just the hobby too, is because we're not spending crazy amounts on the trip. We're also finding ways to not spend it in the hotel. And, but yeah, that's exactly what those lounge access certs are for, though, for those types of benefits, for those types of properties, compared to, some random Hyatt Regency in the US.
Which is a shame that they closed the lounge there and didn't reopen it.
I forgot about that. Yeah, the lounge there was great too. The lounge there was great.
Yeah, you're missing out. Like, you basically got a dinner, almost dinner worthy type of setup at night. And that's why you're getting the drink tickets, I believe, because you're not getting that lounge access. So, each day you should get 2 free drinks, which is like basically $50 at these pool drinks and everything. But it would have been nice if there was a lounge, go there for breakfast. Then you can go grab like a soda during the day, or go there for night for hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And then the other Hilton we used to stay at downtown in Nassau, the British Colonial Hilton or whatever it was called. We kind of like that one too. It was right downtown. It wasn't the nicest property, but you got decent perks there. And then they had a lounge, and they had Khalik on draft and stuff. But I think the Chinese government owns that hotel, and they closed it 2 years ago just because I think it was run down or whatever, and they never reopened it. And there is an SLH property now you can book right by Baha Mar that I was supposed to stay there one night, didn't work out. I wanted to check that out, but that would be like your other option in Nassau. So you really only have those two now, the SLH property and the Hyatt, unless you do choice hotels and are staying at the, what's it called, Comfort Inn across from Atlantis.
Which can be cool for access to all of that. But we'll talk more Bahamas when you're back, and go over all of your trip and all of the fun stuff that you did. Joe Chung is going to be here on MTM Travel with me next week. So he'll be filling in while you're off enjoying the sun and friendly service of the Bahamas.
Who's doing Vegas with you? You're doing solo?
the ghost of Mark's laugh. I have some ideas for putting some sound clips of you in there, some laughing in the background or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I do have a Vegas show to do by myself, so we'll see how that all works out. But leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think. We have 20-minute travel, all of the news for Miles and Points coming out on Wednesday of this week. Make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. Help us out. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.